We all know that she never intended to go to the Portland hospital. She intended to have the baby at home. We know that they deceived the public about the birth date and time of the whole event.
Tom Bower, the man who's made a career out of exposing the Crown's darkest corners, has dropped a bombshell about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's children, Archie and Lilibet. Whispers of surrogacy, rumors of deception, questions about royal bloodlines. And at the center of it all, a panicking prince in Montecito, and a duchess who seems as cool as ice. Stay with me, because what started as fairy tale bliss has morphed into something far darker, and the drama could shake the royal family forever. Remember the way it was sold? A handsome soldier prince, wounded but brave, finally finds peace after years of duty and loss. A glamorous American actress, beautiful, independent, and determined to break royal tradition. Their story was framed as a modern fairy tale, love across the ocean, a palace wedding watched by millions, and soon after, the image of a baby carriage rolling into view. It had all the makings of a Hollywood script, one that the press and public were eager to believe. But behind those palace walls, insiders now claim the story wasn't quite as perfect as it appeared. According to investigative author Tom Bower, even the most sacred details, the births of Archie and Lilibet, were wrapped in secrecy, contradictions, and perhaps even deception. Take the Portland Hospital, for example. It was widely reported as Meghan's choice for Archie's delivery, yet Bower alleges it was all a fabrication.
The whole description she does of the Portland Hospital, the birth, that was completely fabricated. We all know.
He claims Meghan never intended to give birth there at all. Instead, the narrative was carefully staged, leaving the media to chase shadows while the truth remained hidden. Then, there's the official birth announcement. To the public, it looked routine, but Bower suggests it was anything but. Every word, every date, every detail may have been manipulated, not by accident, but by design. And why go to such lengths? Because timing is everything, especially when you're not just raising a family, but building a brand. Which brings us to Section 2. When Harry and Meghan inked their Netflix deal, it was marketed as freedom wrapped in a shiny package.
What they've done very cleverly is they use their friends, their lawyer, academics who have always backed their side of the argument.
$100 million contract, millions in exchange for their story, their voice, their brand of authenticity. But insiders suggest that the deal came with an invisible trap: exposure. Every frame, every photo, every storyline turned their private world into public currency. What once was just a curated Instagram post has now become a product, open to analysis, critique, and obsession. And today, with Tom Bower's revelations resurfacing, that magnifying glass has intensified into something more like a burning spotlight. Every move is scrutinized. Every Instagram caption is dissected. Every bump photo is studied frame by frame, debated endlessly online as if the truth might be hidden in a pixel. What began as fringe tabloid speculation, whispers of surrogacy, questions about timelines, contradictions in official announcements, has now crept into the mainstream. Not just gossip blogs, but royal commentators, radio hosts, and even respectable outlets are weighing in. Suddenly, Netflix's golden ticket doesn't feel like liberation. It feels like a leash, one that tightens with every renewal, every exclusive, every bombshell promised, but not quite delivered. And nobody feels the strain of that leash more than Harry. For him, the deal that was supposed to secure independence now risks chaining his every decision, his every appearance, to the same public spotlight he once swore to escape. Reports from Montecito say Harry is unraveling. Staff whisper about him pacing the halls of their California mansion, muttering to himself, obsessively checking headlines, and calling old friends late into the night. The soldier prince who once projected strength is now described as paranoid, frantic, and consumed by a fear he can't control. Meanwhile, Meghan? Cool as a cucumber. Observers describe her drafting legal strategies, consulting PR advisors, and maintaining her carefully polished public persona. She doesn't blink. She doesn't sweat. She stays still while Harry flails. Critics call it the classic Sussex dynamic. Harry, emotional, erratic, panicked. Meghan, calculated, composed, and in control. But here's the twist. The more panicked Harry looks, the more Meghan's icy calm feeds the perception that she's the one pulling the strings. And that only makes the public thirstier for answers. Here's where the gossip goes nuclear. Tom Bower's claims haven't just stirred old debates, they've reignited the most explosive rumor of all. that Archie and Lilibet may not have been born in the way the Sussexes presented to the world.
What actually were the Sussexes up to all this year? And we've said many times over the past few weeks, Dan, that Meghan's silence is really odd. She's building up to something big. And there's no doubt that in LA over the last few weeks, there's been this gossip.
Fans and skeptics alike point to a series of oddities that refuse to fade into the background. Inconsistencies in Meghan's baby bump appearances. One day pronounced, the next almost invisible, fuel for endless online speculation. Confusing timelines around birth announcements. Statements that didn't quite match the official records, leaving a trail of contradictions. The absence of traditional photo ops. No hospital steps moment, no carefully staged swaddled infant in public view, unlike royal traditions stretching back generations. The children's rare appearances. In contrast to their Windsor cousins, Archie and Lilibet remain almost phantom-like, seen only in carefully curated, tightly controlled snapshots. And from those oddities come the questions, uncomfortable, dangerous questions. If Meghan did use a surrogate, why go to such lengths to hide it? Was the secrecy a matter of privacy or a calculated brand decision? Was Harry fully aware of every detail, or could he have been kept in the dark on certain arrangements? And the most explosive question of all, if surrogacy was involved, what does that mean for Archie and Lilibet's place in the royal line of succession? The very suggestion makes royal insiders squirm. Because this isn't just about Meghan and Harry's personal choices. It's about the rules, the traditions, and the legitimacy of the monarchy itself. If the whispers carry even a fraction of truth, it risks shaking one of the most carefully guarded institutions in the world. And that is why the palace's silence is so deafening. It's not just discretion, it could be strategy. Because one word too many, one confirmation or denial, could set off an explosion that no one inside Buckingham Palace is prepared to handle. Notice how the royal family has handled this. With cold, clinical distance, measured, deliberate, almost surgical in its precision. George, Charlotte, and Louis are fixtures of the royal calendar. School portraits are released like clockwork. Balcony waves on national holidays. Paparazzi shots of family outings, sometimes even encouraged. They're visible, tangible, woven into the fabric of royal life. But Archie and Lilibet? They exist on the margins. Rare photos tightly staged. Long stretches of silence where the children simply disappear from public view. Their lives are curated, not shared. Is this a coincidence? Or is it a quiet strategy? Some commentators argue it's calculated, a deliberate move by the palace to distance itself. Not through open confrontation, but through omission. By keeping the Sussex children out of the royal spotlight, the institution avoids lending them the legitimacy that visibility brings. It's a way of raising doubts without ever speaking them aloud. And that, they say, is the oldest trick in the Windsor playbook: silence as strategy. No statements, no denials, no confirmations. Just space. Just distance. Because in that silence, the weight of rumor grows heavier. The palace shields itself from blame while leaving Harry and Meghan to weather the storm alone. And make no mistake, the silence is louder than words. Every non-appearance, every withheld photo, every moment of public absence sends a message. Not overt, not shouted, but whispered between the lines. They are not quite like the others. And in the world of monarchy, whispers can be just as devastating as declarations. Here's where the plot thickens. Every revelation, every rumor, every carefully timed photo seems to circle back to one thing: money. The Sussexes didn't just step away from a monarchy, they built an empire from its shadow. Netflix, Spotify, memoirs, speaking tours, each venture packaged and sold with the allure of rebellion. They weren't just Harry and Meghan. They were Harry and Meghan, the exiled royals, telling a story the world was willing to pay to hear. But the timing? That's what makes critics raise their eyebrows. Announcements made just as deals were inked. Birth news breaking in ways that felt staged. Carefully orchestrated imagery, as if every smile, every bump photo, every private moment was also a product placement. And that sparks the uncomfortable question: were the children part of the brand strategy? Were birth announcements aligned not just with life events, but with contracts, sponsors, and PR campaigns? Because if so, the entire narrative begins to wobble. What happens when a brand built on authenticity is accused of fabrication? When a fairy tale is revealed as a business plan? Tom Bower isn't coy about it. He cuts to the bone, accusing the Sussexes of something far uglier: grifting.
Now, what's really interesting here, of course, Bill Simmons, not coincidentally, saying they're grifters.
Free houses, free jets, free meals. leveraging royal proximity for profit, turning personal lives into public currency. And in that light, the surrogacy whispers stop looking like idle gossip. To critics, they start to look like evidence, part of a larger pattern. A cycle of deception dressed up as PR, polished until it shines, and then sold to the highest bidder. In other words, not just a royal scandal, a royal hustle. For Harry, this cuts deeper than money. Fatherhood was his refuge, the role that defined him after walking away from the crown. He built his new identity on being a family man, a protective father, the opposite of the cold institution he left behind. Now the surrogacy whispers threaten that image. They strike at his identity, his pride, even his manhood. Friends claim he's unraveling because this scandal hits where he's most vulnerable. Without fatherhood, what's left? The soldier prince without a mission, the royal without a crown. And that may be why we see Harry panicking in Montecito, while Meghan remains cold and calculating. Because for her, it's a strategy. But for him, it's personal. Meanwhile, the public is having a field day. Twitter threads are filled with side-by-side photos of Meghan's bump. TikTok detectives are dissecting timelines. Instagram memes mock Harry's frantic energy versus Meghan's icy calm. Every day the Sussexes stay silent, the gossip spreads faster. Calls for DNA tests grow louder. #trend. And the story refuses to die. For some fans, the solution is simple. Just prove it. Do the tests, show the documents, and end the speculation. But for critics, the silence is the point. Every unanswered question fuels the brand, keeps the Sussex name in headlines, and drives the next paycheck. And that, perhaps, is Meghan's greatest strategy. Control the narrative not by answering, but by refusing to answer. This isn't just tabloid chatter. At stake is legacy, lineage, and the crown itself. If Archie and Lilibet's origins are ever questioned officially, it could shake their place in the royal succession, and the monarchy does not take succession lightly. For Harry, the panic is about more than gossip. It's about the possibility that his children may be seen as outsiders in the very family he sacrificed everything for. And for Meghan, the strategy is survival. Keep the image intact, keep the brand alive, and let Harry absorb the emotional fallout. Classic Sussex dynamic. Classic royal drama. So where does this leave us? A panicking prince in California. A calculating duchess orchestrating the silence. 2 children caught in the middle of a global storm. And a palace watching quietly from the shadows. The Sussex fairy tale was supposed to be about freedom, love, and breaking tradition. Instead, it's become a messy, chaotic, scandal-ridden saga that refuses to fade away. Will Harry and Meghan ever break their silence? Will DNA tests settle the whispers once and for all? Or will the storm simply grow until the Sussex brand and their royal legacy crumbles under its own weight? One thing's for sure. The world is watching. The tea is spilling. And this saga is far from over.